Are you ready for your 2025 Instagram playbook? Today, we're talking about the biggest trends wedding pros need to know on Instagram this year. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. As always, it's me, your host, Candice, and I've got another trend report ready for you today. Well, earlier this month, we talked about overall 2025 marketing trends. And today, I want to focus just on Instagram and share with you what I think is going to be trending this year. I've got 11 trends and a lot to get through in this episode, and I want you to stick around until the end because the final trend I think is probably the most controversial, and it's the one that I see wedding pros doing the most that I really want you to stop doing. You might feel like you need to skip everything just to get there right now if I piqued your interest. And yes, I did do that on purpose, but I want you to listen to the entire episode because I think we're covering a lot of ground here. And in this episode, I'm not talking hashtags because those are dead. I'm not talking about the things that you already know how to do. I'm talking about the stuff that you're not paying attention to or that I don't see you doing well enough. So these are all new ideas and they're all new things that I think are going to be trending for this year. Now, before we get into the trends, I do want to let you know that if you are a wedding planner listening to the podcast, hello. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. I have a very special upcoming masterclass that I would love for you to attend. I am delivering a masterclass playbook on how you can grow your business to hit that 100K mark in 2025. I'm calling it the 100K playbook. It's everything that you need to know to grow your business this year to hit 100K. If you're a wedding planner and you've been struggling to hit that six-figure mark, this masterclass was specifically designed for you to teach you my methods for growing and scaling your wedding planning business past that 100K mark. I know that hitting six figures in your wedding planning business and just honestly in your wedding industry business in general is sometimes a hard milestone. It's a challenge. And there are specific things that wedding planners need to do in order to hit that 100K mark. And I'm revealing it inside my free masterclass. There are 3 different masterclass time slots for you to choose from. And this masterclass, it's happening next week. If you'd like to register, it's 100% free. I promise you are going to walk away with a 100K strategy. Go to CandiceCoppola.com/100K to register, and I'll see you there. Okay, let's get into our 2025 trends for Instagram this year. So let's talk about trends with the first trend that you need to be aware of this year if you're marketing your business on Instagram, and it's the rise of content creators. And as a wedding pro, you have to get, I think, really comfortable this year hiring content creators to tell a little bit of a story about the work that you do for your clients and just the weddings that you produce or the weddings that you're a part of in general. Last year in 2024, we saw content creators really have a foothold in the industry. We saw some wonderful businesses come out of this desire to have content created, not just on our side, but also on the side of clients and couples getting married. And I think this year it's going to be even more prevalent and content creators are going to be more of a staple at weddings. And they should be. I think they add a different eye to the day, and more clients are interested in having social media generated content or phone generated content. I don't think this is going to take away from your professional photographers and your professional videographers, but I do think that some content creators out there are raising the game and creating some really compelling video and photo content. And as wedding pros, this is a gift we've been given to be able to work with someone who can come alongside us for the day and really capture the essence of what we do. Social media, storytelling on social media has been on the rise for several years. We're going to talk about storytelling a little bit later in this episode, but I'm seeing content creators here to stay. And I think they're going to become more ingratiated in the wedding industry. We have several who listen to the show, and I know they're nodding their head. And I know they're grateful to be listed as the first trend for today. So with that said, you need to start incorporating content creators into your overall Instagram strategy. This might be collaborating on a styled shoot together. expect a content creator to work for pro bono on that, especially if they're looking to build their portfolio. But when it comes to bringing people into your weddings, expect to pay a fee to have a content creator tag along. One thing that I really want you to do is think about at least one, maybe two events that you're a part of this year where you feel like you've really been utilized to your fullest potential. Your work is outstanding. The look and feel of the day is fantastic. The couple is wonderful. The vendor team is really powerful. And consider investing in a content creator to come along and to capture your role in the day. And if this wedding really is one of those portfolio cornerstone pieces, then I would tell you as a vendor team, look to hire a content creation team to come and capture everybody's work for the day. That could be something really nice to do. And this way, everybody's work is captured and the full story of the day is told. If you're a videographer listening to this episode, I want you to figure out how you can get more comfortable with content creators at your events. I know that you might not love the idea of having someone there. Another thing that you can do is look to bring content creation into the fold of your business as one of your services if this is something you're interested in offering. So we kind of have a either play nice with the content creators who have been hired to come and maybe hire some to come and capture you, or see if this is something that you might want to add to your business to give you a little bit more creative control. And it could also be a really good revenue boost. So content creators are a first trend for 2025. The second trend for 2025 is authenticity over perfection. We've been watching Instagram move in this direction for many years, and I couldn't be happier to see it kind of catch up with what we've seen on Snapchat and TikTok in terms of perfectionism. Instagram is definitely almost in lockstep with TikTok. And I think this year, as we look to create content that tells the story of who we are and the clients that we serve, clients are looking for authenticity over perfection. I talked about this in our 2025 trend report for marketing trends overall. And of course, this is going to make its way into Instagram and it's going to make its way into how you create content for your brand and how you also show up as the owner of your business on Instagram. Gen Z and millennials prefer authenticity over perfection, although my millennial heart does bleed aesthetic, I have to be honest. And I know a lot of Gen Zers feel the same way. But we are all looking for these unfiltered moments. As a wedding pro, I challenge you to share more of the moments from weddings that aren't the beautiful tablescape or the scene setter shot of a ceremony, those sweeping views. Yes, you're still going to share those. But I'm also challenging you to kind of look beyond some of that content for the moments that truly matter in the lives of your clients and the reason why they ultimately hire you. Dance floor moments, fun moments, unexpected moments. Those are the things that typically go viral. And I mentioned this in the trend report episode, but I'm thinking of that viral moment of that bride and groom being introduced into their reception and they had those bottles of champagne and the groom slammed the bottles down and the corks pop and like the crowd went wild. It was a movie star moment. It was a made for TV moment, but it was real. It was authentic. That is the type of content that you'll have to look around in your camera roll for and have a content creator ready to capture so that you can leverage it for marketing. But outside of just looking for those real, raw, vulnerable, happy, joyful moments at someone's wedding, I think you also have to remind yourself that you're not an influencer, you are a marketer. And so if you're looking to capture real, authentic moments behind the scenes of your business and, of course, your life, I am going to challenge you to think like a marketer and not an influencer. And what I mean by that is I don't think that you need to let every moment hang out. I'm very passionate about running certain things through a filter, even though you might be vulnerable or or feel compelled to share the real, authentic behind the scenes of running a business. Always remember that you are also marketing your business and there needs to be a filter attached. Now, when we look at feeds and Instagram feeds, I think this also plays into this trend. I do think there needs to be a slight level of curation to a feed, meaning I think that you want to be thoughtful about the balance. It's almost like decorating a room. But with that said, as we watched interior design trends really change from this very aesthetic, matchy matchy sort of vibe, a very one theme only in a room interior design, I'm thinking like this kind of very rustic look or very specific design trend. What we're noticing is that there's more of an eclectic mix coming into interior design, and that's going to feed into wedding design as well. But I think your feed can have an eclectic mix to it. It needs to be thoughtful, but I don't want it to feel like a museum, and I do not want it to be so curated that you get stuck posting because that's not helping you as a marketer. It's not helping your business, and it's not helping people find you to work with you. So there is a level of curation to the feed, but it doesn't need to be anything outrageous. Think about how home design trends have morphed into this collected, curated, but collected looks and homes right now. That's what I want your Instagram feed to feel like. The next trend that I'm really loving on Instagram are zero text reels. And I think this is a fun one for you to try, and it might alleviate any pressure that you're feeling for having the perfect text on a reel. I will say that this doesn't mean that you shouldn't have any text on reels. You should, but there is some permission to just show up and share some really great video clips or great images without too much context on the reel. Finding some trending audio and having your clips play to the audio is a great trend. And what I love about it is it allows people to just step into the moment and be present and immersed inside the reel. I also think what's interesting here when you do this is it's normally aspirational content. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. And it's not so much tips and tricks or do this or a lot of writing on a reel, a lot of information, but it's more so about inspiration. And I think that's really powerful. And that's where things are trending is inspiration, aspiration, and also those real authentic moments. So if you haven't created a lot of zero text reels, I'm going to encourage you to do that this year and play around with it and see what happens. The fourth trend for Instagram this year is to embrace AI, but there's a huge asterisk next to that with like a disclaimer, a warning label, please. I want you to embrace AI with your marketing this year. I want you to use tools like ChatGPT or Claude to help you think of great marketing ideas and campaigns, to help you think through marketing ideas for Instagram, even posts. But I do not want you to copy and paste everything AI gives you. You've heard me say before here on the podcast that I can pretty much tell an AI caption almost instantly. And it's it kind of infuriates, I think, my marketing team because sometimes I'm like, I know I can tell ChatGPT wrote that caption. Not that I don't want them to use ChatGPT, I do. But they'll come back to me and be like, oh, but Candice, like, we actually wrote that. So it's kind of, we're blurring the lines here. I feel like AI is getting better at sounding like us, but there are certain giveaways in an AI caption, and it's often lots of emojis used for bullet points, dashes here and there. I can just tell that AI wrote a caption, and that's not what I want you to do. Instead, I want you to embrace AI to help you think bigger, to help you get out of your head, to use this tool that has so much marketing knowledge to really push your marketing strategy this year. But I also need you to remember that AI is only going to be so good as what you train it with and what you tell it and the information that you give it. In order for AI to get really smart about your marketing so that you can have it write captions for you that people cannot tell were written by AI, you need to be smart about what you give AI. I'm actually going to be teaching this inside my mastermind, Wedding Pro Insiders, shameless plug. I would love for you to go and sign up for the wait list for when we have an available spot if you'd like coaching from me. But I'm also thinking that I may bring some AI tips to a future episode of the podcast. So if that's something you'd like to hear from me, please let me know. We need to embrace AI. And if you haven't really made use of AI in your business, I think you're going to get left behind. I have to be honest with you. I was listening to a masterclass by the marketing goat, Seth Godin. He was talking about AI. And if you followed Seth Godin, you know he's written tremendous books on marketing. He has a crazy awesome blog. He's written thousands of blog posts at this point. I think he blogs daily. And for somebody who writes so heavily, he's leaning into AI, not to replace him as a writer, as an author, as a thinker, but to help him become a better one. And that is what I want you to use AI for too. Seth did say that if we don't start adopting AI smartly in our businesses as marketers, we will get left behind. And I think this is the year where you have to start using AI in a way that helps you create authentic and real marketing campaigns that attract your ideal clients. A downside to AI is that it's so easy to detect and spot that it instantly creates an element, a layer of mistrust when we see it or reread it. Whether it's in an email or an Instagram caption or something else, we see it and we think, ooh, they didn't write that. And for many of us, myself included, we have this, oh, it's kind of like, I don't know. They didn't write that. Should I trust them? Do they really know what they're talking about? You have to overcome that. And that's why copying and pasting AI captions just isn't going to work this year. There's more it can do for you that is way more compelling and smart. And you can create better content and not just copy and paste. Trend number 5 for 2025 is I need you to get out there and really start engaging on social media and on Instagram this year. We've all heard the cliche that social media is social, but with algorithms shifting reach, I think it's more important than ever that we cast a deep net here on social media. And instead of going wide, like I mentioned in my 2025 marketing trend report on Instagram, we go deep and we really foster relationships and connections on social media. You have to get out there and engage. And if you don't have the time for this, hire somebody to do this for you. I like to think of comments that I leave on Instagram, likes that I give as little boosts of encouragement, as little bursts of encouragement for folks. But I also like to think of it as kind of like my digital business card. And you need to be thinking of engagement in the same way outside of the wonderful side effects, relationships, connection, camaraderie, community, especially with your local vendors. You are leaving behind a breadcrumb trail straight to your business so more people can discover you. That's why this trend, I think, is a must, and we need to get out and engage this year in a more authentic way. You need to use this as a networking tool and get serious about it. And remember, you don't need to be engaging with everybody. Pick a couple of people that you really want to pour into this year. Maybe these are people who are paying attention to you. If you remember my patio chat last week with Carla Tunike, we talked about this notion of paying attention to people who pay attention to you. To start your engagement campaign for 2025, I would tell you to find 3 people who have been fiercely paying attention to you over the last couple of years, months, weeks, and return the favor. The 6th trend for Instagram this year is to spend more time doing some social listening. And this is a trend straight from Hootsuite, where I did a little bit of research before doing this podcast episode. And I think this is a great trend that Hootsuite is talking about for Instagram. And I want to apply it to your wedding industry business. So when we talked about engaging, and I shared that cliche about social media is meant to be social, there's also another cliche that comes into play here. And it's the old advice to listen more than you speak. And I think that advice is great, actually, in a lot of areas of life. And I think that this is an interesting one to adopt for Instagram this year because Hootsuite's top social media trends for the year, which I've included a link in the show notes, is to listen more to what other brands are doing and to what people are saying to allow it to really influence your marketing campaigns. And so when we apply this kind of general advice from Hootsuite, which is important, just because it's general doesn't mean it's not impactful. But when we apply this to your wedding industry business, it means listening to what people are saying online in your consultations and in your inbox. Doing what I like to call a little data mining, which I've talked about many times on this podcast. What do your couples want? What do they want from someone like you? What are they asking for? What are they engaging with? What are other people in the industry saying? What I want you to do is observe and make your own conclusions, draw your own conclusions from listening to what other people are saying and watching what other people are doing. When you come from this like a seat of observation and listening, it leads you to creating your own conclusions and developing your own ideas rather than copying it. I do not want you to just start copying what people are doing. Instead, I want you to watch with the keen marketer's eye that you have and digest it and interpret it and use it as momentum, as a bit of gasoline in your marketing tank, but also as inspiration to really stretch yourself this year and to create marketing content that does what it's supposed to do. Because I want you to remember that marketing is simply sharing your message so that it attracts the right people. And if you can listen and watch what people are saying, especially your ideal clients, then you can make sure that your messaging is connecting with them and it's speaking to what they want from a wedding pro like you. Now, in this same article, they also talk about social listening is leading to something called trend jacking. And you've probably seen this just recently with the Super Bowl. So, after the Super Bowl, of course, the halftime performance is always something people talk about. It's water cooler conversation. And after the Super Bowl, you probably saw a lot of memes with Kendrick Lamar. And I even posted some on my stories. I've been liking all of them on TikTok. This is something called trend jacking, and it's taking a trend or a water cooler conversation or a hot topic and using it in your marketing. You often see this happening after award shows like the Grammys or the Oscars or the People's Choice Awards, the MTV Awards. When celebrities do things, their reactions, what they're wearing, they often become memes. And that is an example of trend jacking. Trend jacking also can go outside of award season and kind of pop culture. And it could just be a trending audio that people are using. You're seeing trend jacking right now with this reel that's going around where it's like, I met my 18-year-old self for coffee, and here's how it went. That's trend jacking. We're going to see plenty more of this year. It's been happening for years, but I want you to actually pay attention to this. And I want you to look for ways where you can jack some trends and infuse it in your marketing. The best place to look for trends is TikTok. It's not Instagram. Isn't that sad? The best place to look for trends is TikTok. You've heard me say it happens on TikTok first. And so if you want to add a little trend jacking into your repertoire this year, you need to get yourself a TikTok account. You don't have to post, but if you want to look for what's trending, TikTok is a great place to look. Now, I'm even doing this in my own business. My marketing manager and I, we even have a little spot in our marketing brief that talks about trends, and we call it What the Streets Are Saying. What are the streets talking about right now? And we're paying attention to what people are saying, what people are commenting on, their opinions around things. And we're using it to influence our marketing, but also some business decisions that I make too. You can do the same thing and have a document that talks about what the streets are saying and pay attention to trends. And now that you know where to look for trends, TikTok, but then also after large pop culture moments like the Super Bowl or awards, you'll be quicker to jump on trends in your business. Okay, trend number 7. Personalized and non-traditional weddings are on the rise, and you're going to see this influencing your Instagram marketing for this year. So speaking of trend jacking, I think every wedding pro needs to be mindful of what is actually trending in the wedding world right now and what people are paying attention to, what your couples are paying attention to, and how they're being influenced not by wedding pros. This is an interesting hot topic. I feel like couples these days are not necessarily influenced so much by the Knot or magazines or blogs, by wedding pros, but they're being influenced by one another. And they're following what influencers are doing more and more. And that is what's influencing their decisions around their wedding. But speaking of trend jacking, I think every wedding pro needs to be mindful of what's trending right now. Couples are spending less money overall. And this is according to wedding reports. Wedding Reports surveys wedding pros and they ask wedding pros lots of questions related to their business, how their business is performing, what their clients want. And an interesting trend that's been happening really over the last 2 years is that couples are spending less money on their wedding and they're inviting less people, which is clearly to save money. And so, with that, balanced alongside the rising cost of the wedding industry, the rising cost of materials, the rising cost of services, your rising costs. This is something that you have to start paying attention to in your business, but also in your marketing. So we know that budgets are going down, guest counts are going down, and couples are wanting something that feels much more personalized and feels much more like them. And you have to showcase that in your marketing. Perhaps this is a bit of a rebuff from the days of perfectly curated Instagram accounts and perfectly curated styled shoots. What do you think? I think that part of this trend for Instagram and just for weddings overall of wanting more real, authentic, smaller, less aesthetically driven, more personalized, probably is a rebuff from the years of perfectly curated, style me pretty style weddings. It has to be. So, this is something that you're going to need to pay attention to as you market your business this year and as you create content for Instagram. I think it's a trend that we all need to embrace as wedding professionals. Regardless of whether smaller weddings are our niche, micro weddings are our niche, the truth is this is what people want. And ultimately, while we try to drive trends, it's the consumer that's going to drive trends in the wedding industry based on what they gravitate toward. Okay, trend number 8. This is one of my favorites. This is honestly one of my favorites. It's nostalgia driven content. Raise your hand if you're all about nostalgic content. Raise your hand if you always like a reel that's playing music that you loved when you grew up, or you stop on an old ad for something. I remember, I think it was TikTok, of course. I was on TikTok and I saw this really hilarious ad, and it was the caption on the TikTok was like, this is what I thought it meant to be rich as a kid. And it was that canned powdered latte stuff. Do you remember this? It was like cafe latte. And the marketing behind it was so good that it had me believing too as a child, like only rich people drink that shit. And if you had that in your cupboard, you were rich. Like that was to be rich, you had to drink that latte in a can. I love nostalgia driven content, and I'm sure you do too. And it's really big on social media right now. We're talking throwbacks to the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. 2000s makes me cringe because I cannot believe that that was 25 years ago, but whatever. You're seeing that aesthetic play a role in design choices right now. So we're seeing a lot of 80s, 90s, and early 2000s fashion design. We're seeing it in weddings. I laughed at first with the 80s wedding cake, but now it's really charming. You know who I think did that first was Gwen Stefani. I think her and Blake Sheldon's wedding cake was that 80s style, columns in the middle wedding cake. Now I'm so about it. But we're seeing this aesthetic trending, throwback filters, Y2K fonts are really big. And I think that as a wedding pro, you can tap into some of this nostalgic content by sharing some throwbacks of your work, maybe some past wedding trends that might be coming back, or even the nostalgia that you're bringing to the table with your work and the weddings that you're working on. So I love this trend. I hope it's here to stay for a bit, and I'm sure we will move into more modern eventually, but I'm loving the 90s and early 2000s vibe right now, the aesthetic. Okay, trend number 9, collaborations and cross promotions. This might be my favorite feature that Instagram has added over the last couple of years. It was perfectly poised for us in the wedding industry, and the ability to collaborate on posts is huge. Partnering with vendors and venues on posts has, I think, brought so many clients to us, or so much more awareness about our brands. And it's been really wonderful. And I want you to start leaning into this more this year and maybe even expanding some of your collabs outside of just the wedding industry and collaborating with some local influencers who might be able to actually bring some traffic, some foot traffic, some eyeballs, and potentially some clients your way. So beyond just collaborating on a post, I have a few ideas for you that I'd love to share. You can host a joint giveaway with another business. Giveaways have actually made a comeback, and there's been a few women in my mastermind who've hosted some really successful giveaways recently. You can use it to cross promote each other. You can take over each other's stories for a day. We did this a lot during COVID, and I think this could be really fun to bring back. Speaking of nostalgia, you could go live together, although I'm finding that lives, I don't know if they perform that well as they used to during COVID times, but it's worth a shot. You can do TikTok stitching or Instagram stitching. Stitching has become such a great way to add your voice to a current trending conversation. I think Instagram calls this remixing, and there's so many other fun ways to just collaborate with people. I would like for you to think about, as you're creating a marketing strategy each quarter, how are you building in collaboration on Instagram with other people? Okay, we're winding down to the last two trends. Trend number 10, adding sound to carousels and enhancing your overall visual carousel content. Carousels have made a nice comeback, and I'm so happy to see people using carousels in really simple ways by posting one image and then dropping some text over it, and then just having different texts be a part of the carousel, or different comments being a part of each post. Hopefully that's making sense. Now, we know Instagram wants us to use all their features, and they're really leaning into carousels. And I knew that instantly when they made carousels discoverable on the Reels tab. So this means that you have an opportunity to diversify your content a little bit and to start using carousels more in your marketing, whether you are just posting a series of images in carousels, or maybe you've brought something into Canva and created sort of a storyboard of images for carousels, which I actually love that. I also love the idea of, like I mentioned, using one photo and then adding text to it and changing up the text for each carousel. I did this recently and the post performed really well. And it was things like, I've been in the wedding industry for 15 years. Here are some things I know to be true. It performed really well. We actually ran ads to it, which, fun fact, backfired on us because my feet were exposed in the picture. I was just like sitting down and you could see my feet, and feet guys showed up to my ads like big time, big time. I was like, dude, my husband was getting pissed. He was like, who are these guys? I'm going to message him. I'm like, babe, this is not, no, that's not, we don't need to do that. So whatever you do not post your foot in a photo and run ads to it. Take my foolish advice. But outside of that, you can also bring an element of music, which is more of an immersive experience with carousels. And we know that trending audios play a role in how Instagram's algorithm works. So what I'm challenging you to do this year is to create more carousels and to add some audio to it, to allow the music or whatever audio you've decided to put on it tell a story, tell a greater story around the carousel. Okay, we have reached the final trend of 2025 for Instagram, and I'm really excited about this one. I told you I saved the best for last, and maybe this is the most controversial, and it's something that I kind of want you to stop doing so much. And it is, I want you to stop posting how-to content and lean into aspirational. So trend number 11 is more aspirational content and less how-to. For years, you have been posting how-to content, how to create an RSVP list, how to choose your wedding photographer, how to do a shot list, how to pick your wedding dress. Like, I get it. We all get it. It doesn't work anymore. And your couples, in truth, really don't want to know how to do this. Preferably, they would like to hire an expert, as expertise is on the rise, and you need to lean into your expertise, as I mentioned in our overall marketing trends report. They don't want a how-to guide. They don't want an instruction manual on how to plan their wedding. They want somebody to step in and do it for them, regardless of what their budget might be. And so for you, this means those how-to carousels that you painstakingly create, that you effing hate, I'm telling you, you can stop doing that shit. And instead, I want you to lean into more aspirational and inspirational content this year. So it goes kind of like this. Instead of how to create a timeless wedding palette on your Instagram, I want you to shift it to, here's the perfect color palette for an elegant luxury wedding. Do you see how instead of showing them how to do it, you're just going to show them what works? You're just going to tell them what you do, and this is what works. And if you want me to do this for you, click here. That is the kind of content that will do well on Instagram this year. So instead of something like 3 tips for a stress-free wedding day, shift to how we create a flawless wedding day experience for our couples. Instead of how you do it, I'm going to show you how we do it, especially in the luxury market, but even in the mid luxury or, even in the DIY market, even in the lower budget bracket market, how to content just isn't trending like it used to on Instagram. People don't want to do it themselves. They want you to they want you to either do it or they want you to give them a no fluff, like just show me exactly the recipe. I don't need all the bullshit before and after. Blogging is different. So this is just for Instagram, remember. This isn't for your blog or anywhere else on the internet per se. This is just for Instagram. But my hot take is that this how to content is dead. You need to leave it behind in 2024. And instead, I want you to focus on how you help your clients and the transformation that you provide your customers. All right, friend, those are our 11 trends for 2025 on Instagram. Let's recap them really quick. If you want to write these down, this is your chance. Trend number 1, the rise of wedding content creators. Trend number 2, authenticity over perfection. Trend number 3, zero text reels. Trend number 4, embracing AI. Trend number 5, getting out there and engaging others. Trend number 6, spend more time doing some social listening. Trend number 7, personalization and non-traditional weddings are on the rise, which means this needs to be in your marketing. Trend number 8, one of my favorites, nostalgia-driven content. Trend number 9, collaborations and cross-promotion. Trend number 10, adding sounds to carousels and enhancing your visual content. Finally, trend number 11, my favorite, more aspirational content and less how to. I would love to hear what you think about some of these Instagram trends. Do you think that I got it right? Did I miss anything? What are you seeing on Instagram that you think will be big for this year? Join me in the conversation over on my Instagram at Candice.Coppola. All right, friend, I want to thank you for listening to today's episode of the Power and Purpose podcast. If you love this episode, do me a favor, share it with a friend so they can learn all about Instagram for this year too. I want to remind you there's so much power in your purpose, and I'll see you next time.